Then the New York Times called me and said, hey, Tucker said you were really nervous at the dinner. Is that true? I said, well, I thought he was going to kill me. So yeah, I was a little nervous. Like I didn't think he was going to blow my plane up on the way there or something. Me, I'm under attack by all these people. J.D. Vance hates me. Peter Thiel is trying to destroy me because I'm against Vance, which is his guy in 24. Elon Musk is always attacking me on Twitter.
Yeah.
The Israel lobby hates me. They're trying to get me banned. At all their meetings over the past few weeks, they're saying, we need to pass anti-Semitism laws to keep this guy. So, very clearly I'm against Wall Street, Silicon Valley, Israel lobby. But as far as the Tucker and Candace thing is concerned, there's something very interesting there. There's something subtle there. And I've been talking about this for a long time. If you watch me, I'm saying very clearly that our issue is that we have an organized Jewry in the world, which is to say that it's not every Jewish person that's alive, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are Jewish people as a group are very organized. They have federations, congresses, fraternities, like they're extremely networked and organized. And with organization comes collective action. Right?
Yeah.
If you're one person, you can't make a difference. But if you have 100 people in a membership group and you're all rich or you're all lawyers or judges, now you got some juice. Now you got a little play. Now imagine this on a global scale. Jewish people are like the richest ethnicity in America, overrepresented in Harvard, Columbia, Yale, whatever. Super powerful. Now, that's fine. I mean, God bless them. Good for them. They have a very strong identity and they're very successful. I think largely because they're smart, they're educated. That's a big part of it. But they also help each other. Here's the issue. They put their tribe ahead of their nation. And that can be a conflict of interest. Now, that's what I say. What Tucker and Candace say is completely different. They come out and they say, no. We don't have a problem like that, and we don't even have a problem with Israel per se. They say we have a problem with specific policies of the Israeli government and Netanyahu. And when Candace asked me to do her show, was this a big reunion? Did we have a great time? No. She tried to put the screws in me, and she interrogated me and said, do you hate Jewish people for being Jewish? Do you hate Dave Smith because he's Jewish? And I said, no. I said, I don't hate
You gave me Dave Smith's number, by the way.
What's that?
You gave me Dave Smith's number.
I did, yeah. And I like Dave.
Yeah.
I love Dave, actually. He's a great guy. But what they were effectively saying is, because you talk about Jewishness, you're an anti-Semite. And I said, look, I don't hate them, and I don't hate individuals, or I'm a Christian. I don't hate anybody, actually. And in particular, Christians have a special respect for Jews. We call them a witness people because they witnessed the revelation by God in the Old Testament and the Passion of Christ. Anyway, so she brings me on the show and says, you talk about Jews, you're an anti-Semite. The real issue is like the neocons in Israel. And I said, that's just BS. Clearly it's bigger than that. Then she goes on the show with Tucker. And for 15 minutes, they talk about me and say, yeah, he's like David Duke. He's a Fed. He's a real anti-Semite. He's a weird kid in his basement. So I call out Tucker. Tucker has me on the show. I think it's a good conversation. Now he's going around everywhere and saying, well, I agree with Nick on some things, but not his anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. Oh, so there's that line again. So there's a triangulation here. Tucker, Candace, me. And it seems like they both brought me on their show to either lecture me or interrogate me or to maybe create space between us and say, no, you're a Jew hater. I'm critiquing Israel's policies. And so there is a gulf between us. But the difference is they're still in on it. They still think Israel's our ally. They still have, they're still part, maybe 1 foot in on the organized Jewish lobby. And I'm totally independent of that. I would say that's the distinction between us.
So you'd say then, so they're the feds then?
Yeah. Yes.
It's crazy. But you had a good convo with Tucker.
Yeah, I did.
Obviously the Candace thing went a bit different. The conversations that you guys had, I know I guess, I don't know if he has dinner with all his guests prior, but the conversations you had there, obviously a little more personal, wasn't on the internet, obviously. What was that like? Did you feel like it was weird or
It was very weird. It felt like a cop interrogating me, and I knew it would be like that. Like, so we're talking, and it's sort of like, he was friendly, but friendliness can be authentic or inauthentic. But there was, like, I would say, an intensity there. There was a tension, even though it was friendly. There was like a deep tension masked by friendliness. And so we'd be talking and laughing, and, he's doing his laugh. Oh, he's doing that. And then he'd be laughing 1 second and then stop on a dime and say, so you took money from Peter Thiel. And you've seen him do it on his show. He's got like this agility, this like range. And by the way, that's not true. So, but he'd be laughing. Oh, haha, that's true. You took money from Peter Thiel. That's like a real thing that he said to me. And I said, what? No, I didn't take money from Peter Thiel. He goes, oh, okay, I believe you. I said, who'd you hear that from? He goes, oh, he told me.
He told him?
Yeah. I was like, no, that never happened. He's like, oh, okay. And it was sort of like, and he was throwing, there was like a lot of weird questions he was asking me about obscure people that like a massive audience wouldn't know, but that if you're in this political space, you would know, or maybe problem people or disruptive people. And so I would say that it was sort of an uncanny, uneasy kind of dinner. And I wasn't talking about it, but then the New York Times called me and said, hey, Tucker said you were really nervous at the dinner. Is that true? I said, well, I thought he was going to kill me. So yeah, I was a little nervous. Like I didn't think he was going to blow my plane up on the way there or something. But yeah, so it was sort of strange. And what I don't like about it is we had this conversation and everybody saw the conversation and said, oh, it was kind of just like a standard interview. It wasn't very intense or anything. It wasn't contentious, but we all saw it. Then he goes on every show for the next few weeks, and every single one calls me an anti-Semite. Every single one. He goes and says, oh, well, I don't agree with his anti-Semitism, his Jew hatred. And it's like, what is that? He goes on on Megyn Kelly. He says, I talked to one of the biggest purveyors of anti-Semitism to convince him to stop being anti-Semitic. Is that what everybody saw in that interview? Because that's not what I heard. That wasn't my discussion, at least as far as I know. And so that's the kind of two-faced, like not direct stuff that I really don't like. Like that makes me not trust him.
Yeah, I get it. It's also interesting because it all feels like theater, because then on the other side the people are completely bashing him the whole time, the Israel lobby, all these people are like Carlson, they're still attacking him while he's dismissing you. So I mean, maybe that's what you would do in that case, because that's what you have to do, because you were there, you were on the show, and they have to continue to disavow you in like slight ways. I guess my question is like, where do you think this is all going? Because it's very clear, it's very obvious how powerful the social media thing is, and how the old mainstream is dead. This is the thing that people listen to. They're living and dying by this now. Mm-hmm. So if you had to guess who, I mean, I guess you just said it. I mean, who is the person who is, I'll deal with this. I'll deal with, you need to say this. You need to say that. Who are those people? Do you think it's Tucker still?
No, I don't think so. I think that Tucker has his own agenda. I don't know what it is. I have
to
ideas.
Sell nicotine or
to sell Alp.
They sent me some. I loved it. But anyways, yeah.
No, I mean, I think that he is clearly the way that the world is made up. It is factions. I don't believe in the grand conspiracy where everything is orchestrated by a monolithic force, like where Russia and the United States are secretly in cahoots, it's being orchestrated. I think that the world is comprised of factions, and America also. And I think that to the extent that the Israel lobby is mad at Tucker, it's because Tucker is coming from a different faction, not necessarily of a Jewish cabal or something, but a different elite faction. I think he's with the intelligence community. That's where his dad comes from. Yeah. That's who his friends are. And initially, Tucker, the way that me and Tucker started having beef is because I was attacking his buddy, Joe Kent, who was running for Congress. And that guy was also in the CIA. And Tucker came out really hard against me, basically out of revenge, because I made this guy lose his race. And so Tucker was working behind the scenes with these other really spooky, fed up people like Max Blumenthal, accusing me of being the Fed, which is ironic. This happened a few years ago. So I think that what Tucker and Candace are, maybe Tucker, I don't know what Candace's deal is. She seems a little nutty lately, but I think what Tucker's deal is he seems to be something like the pressure release valve. Because I'll never forget this. He added a remark at Turning Point over the summer, and it was one of those blink and you miss it type things. If you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't catch it. But he was talking about Jeffrey Epstein. This was at Turning Point SAS.
Yeah.
And he said, everybody in Washington, D.C. knows that Epstein was with Israeli intelligence. He goes, everybody knows that. He says, but nobody will say it. Why? He said, we have to say that Epstein was in Mossad, because if we don't, the only people that will be saying it are those subterranean, actually hateful anti-Semites. Now, if you pick that apart, what does that mean? What is he really saying there? He's saying, if we deny the obvious, which is that Epstein was with Israeli intelligence, we lose credibility because it's obvious, and then we look like liars, like we're covering it up. He said, and in the event that we lose our credibility, the people that will earn credibility are the people talking about Jewish power, the Israel lobby, etc. And we can't concede legitimacy or credibility or the narrative to them. Now, there's a word for this. It's called the limited hangout. It's a PSYOP, which is to say we have to make strategically some admissions. We have to say some of the truth to keep the legitimacy, to keep the credibility, keep people's trust. And if we can maintain their trust, they won't go all the way off the reservation. So we'll make sort of like a tactical admission, and then they won't go and reject the whole system. And so I heard that statement. I said, that's a really weird but also intentional and precise thing to say. But if you're not tapped in, if you're not paying attention, you'd think he's saying, Epstein was Mossad. Oh, Tucker's based. But what he's really saying is we strategically have to say that, because if we don't, then we look like we're in on it, and they are.